Welcome back, everybody, to Crows of Judgment, and I call shenanigans. So we covered the story about the Cowboy Bebop petitions before, one to bring it back and one to keep it canceled. Obviously, there's only one correct choice here, but something doesn't seem right about this. More than 100,000 fans petitioned Netflix to bring back Cowboy Bebop. I love how it pays homage to the original work while still being fresh and original. It must continue, one fan wrote. I mean, this is apparently paying homage to the original, while also keeping it fresh and new and original. Look, when you adapt something, you actually have to pay respect to the source material, and the problem is these anime adaptations, they generally don't, right? You have people running these shows that don't actually care about the medium, they don't care about the fans, and they take a project that people love and they just murder it. And it's so sad when they do it. It's so sad when they do it. And I'm terrified because I'm a huge fan of the show One Piece, right? A huge fan of the manga One Piece. I've got like I constantly have One Piece books on the floor behind me. My camera right now is literally sitting on a stack of unsorted volumes of One Piece that I was just randomly reading through, and I swapped them out with my floor pile. I'm terrible. But like they're talking about adapting that onto Netflix, and I'm like, this is a story that's been going on for years. I mean, we're talking like, I believe it came out in the 90s. We're talking like almost 30 years, 30 plus years of like a continuous story, and it's going to be adapted by some jackasses who don't give a shit about it and are just going to try to make a quick buck and, you know, get some attention. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see them do that to something that I love. It's like Dragon Ball Evolution. Yeah, you can argue that the movie doesn't necessarily hurt the source material, but it's just so disrespectful, and it's an obvious cash grab. It's people working on these projects that don't... I mean, look at Faye Valentine, right? Faye's character, like, she's the femme fatale character. In this, she's like hyperactive. It's really disturbing.
Welcome to the ads, motherfuckers!
So, I mean, that's my thoughts as far as like, you know, the show. And I don't understand where they got 100,000 people to sign this fucking petitions. That's where I'm hung up on it, right? So 112,000 people out of 150,000. You know, I was told one time, give it about like less than 10%. If there's like a huge following of people for a show, not even a huge one, but just in general, fans of a show, you would assume that there's gonna be like less than 10% of those fans who are hardcore enough to, you know, go out and do stuff for it, right? You know, go out to like conventions and things like that. But like sign petitions and everything to keep the shows going. I mean, Teen Titans back in the day had petitions to keep that show going, but nobody tuned in to watch this show. I mean, people pulled clips, people memed the shit out of it, people made fun of it, but in general, nobody completed the series, right? I mean, at best, you have people who watch like the first episode, maybe the second episode, but there's a massive drop off. And I mean, if I follow my rule of tenths, there should be over 1 million people that were tuning in to watch the show. Netflix runs like incredibly low budget shit on their network with incredibly small audiences, but it works because it's not they're not spending a ton of money on it. If there was 1 million people tuning in to watch this show, I mean, I guess you could still argue it got canceled because it's too expensive, but they would just cut the budget. Netflix does that all the time. If you have like a hardcore audience of 1 million people, right? But they clearly didn't. So where is this Ryan guy getting all of these hundreds of thousands of people to sign the petition when, I mean, I don't think 100,000 people tuned in to watch the, like, episode 5, right? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think 100,000 people tuned in to actually complete the series. So maybe, but I also don't think that you would have every single one of them show up to sign the petition either. So this seems to be like just inflated by people that don't care about the project at all. Now, this is something I think is a little bit more important, because this is clearly from people who are actual fans. The anime Cowboy Bebop is a masterpiece. The Netflix live-action adaptation is an empty shell that doesn't capture anything from the anime that reflects the soul, heart, humor, noir, or substance of it in any way, shape, or form. It butchers the stories and the characters, namely Spike and Faye, whose character was completely butchered. Okay, real quick. I don't think John Cho is a good Spike. I mean, like, I don't want to be dissing the guy. I think he actually did try. That's the problem. But, like, Faye's character was completely butchered. I mean, completely butchered. I understand that, you know, it's a Netflix show and everything, and they can't put her in the traditional anime clothes and everything. But they completely did away with the idea of her being a femme fatale character. Instead, you have a hyperactive short. Faye uses her attractiveness to get ahead with people, and she uses that to essentially get over on people. They like seem to be terrified of the idea that someone would be attracted to this character. So they toned her down as much as humanly possible. They took out all scenes related to that. They made her incredibly fucking hyperactive. And I'll be clear, I believe they also then said that she's lesbian too. So I don't think that's not Faye at all in the original Cowboy Bebop. It's completely a different character, just using the same name. Then there's the character of Ed, right? They decided that because, you know, we're in modern current day, Ed, who, you know, in the original series says Ed is a girl, because Ed talks in third person, they decided, no, Ed's non-binary now because that's more inclusive. You're taking characters and just giving them different identities, and in some cases completely taking out their personalities, in other cases completely toning them up to absurd levels, like with Ed. This whole thing was disgusting. This whole thing was disgusting, and I am asking my audience, please, for the love of God, share this petition to keep this show canceled. Because look, this is more like a meme and everything. The way I look at this, I think it's hilarious. If the Netflix live-action Cowboy Bebop came back for a second season, it would get canceled immediately afterwards because nobody would tune in, and people would just go back to mocking and making fun of the actors and the writers and making them feel like shit because they produced shit, and they should be made to feel bad for giving us shit when they were handed a masterpiece. Like, it's kind of like they got handed this recipe, right? Like a Gordon Ramsay recipe to make a fucking to make a beef Wellington, right? And after, like, I don't know, 6 hours, you go into the kitchen and this motherfucker's got like a slob of ground beef that was cooked in the oven, unseasoned, and fucking some like burnt bread on the side, right? It's like they had a masterpiece and they produced absolute shit out of it. So I don't think that this was like the idea that you can't adapt anime adaptations, or like you can't adapt anime, because if there was any anime you could adapt, it would be Cowboy Bebop. It's not extremely over the top. It's a very grounded series. I know it takes place in the future, you got spaceships and everything, but like, you're really focusing on the characters for the most part. None of them have insane superpowers. Like, this would be the easiest thing to adapt, and they just shit their fucking pants, man. It's really embarrassing.